So the title of the book is Diplomacy and Borderlands, African Agency at the Intersections of Orders. And the basic idea behind that was to look at three concepts in depth. That is orders, diplomacy and borderlands. In the old days, one often thought that there's one monolithic world order, or perhaps one monolithic African order. More recent research shows that it's actually a constellation of orders, so there's much more heteronomy in all of that involved than previously assumed. And this is basically what the book is about. So what are these different African orders? How are African orders embedded in global orders? And where are the intersections, the interstitials between those orders? Because research shows, and the book shows quite nicely, that it is precisely at these borderlands, metaphorically speaking, where agency is located. So perhaps you're an African diplomat and you are half in a Central African system and half in a Southern African one. Then you may import, or in technical language transpose, ideas from one order, from one sub-regional order to the next. In staying true with the idea of new diplomacy, the book is published in the New Diplomacy series of Routledge. We don't look only at traditional diplomatic actors, but at non-traditional ones as well. So traditional diplomatic actors represent states and perhaps international organizations. Non-traditional ones can represent international corporations, companies, firms, non-governmental organizations. There's also something that is called citizen diplomacy. So people who are quite well known and can wield diplomatic powers, influence, because of their stature, because of their authority. The book moves from the local to the global. So we start in the townships of Cape Town, move then on to the state level, look at lots of different, what happens within states, lots of different African states, including the Congo and South Africa. And then we move on to the regional level, looking at Southern Africa, West Africa, Horn of Africa, Central Africa, and so on. And then we move further up even to the continent. So we have a chapter, for instance, on African Union. And then eventually we look at how Africa plays its part in shaping global order. So the linkage between African politics and global politics. The book really makes two important contributions. There is, first of all, it tells us something about African diplomacy. So the usual assumption is that African agency basically doesn't exist. So the continent is oftentimes portrayed as if it was thrown into global affairs and there was no meaningful agency by African diplomats. We show quite clearly that assumption is simply wrong. I mean, it's analytically wrong. African diplomats have shaped things quite a bit, including in areas where one may not expect it. When it comes, for instance, to the making of the nuclear regime, nuclear non-proliferation treaty, for instance, that quite clearly is a strong African authorship. And the other contribution is to understanding orders. So moving away from the simplistic view of seeing one monolithic order, world order, to looking at different ones, and there are probably two different types of different orders. The one is functional, so economics works according to different logic compared to the environment or migration, security, arms control, and so on. And there's also the regional one, and the regional one and the functional one, they come together in quite complicated overlaps, sometimes vertical and sometimes horizontal. So if you read the book, I hope you have a good time doing so. Thank you.